Hi everyone! Today, in this video, we are going to deal with a new grammatical topic. But this time, we are going to see grammar in a completely different way. So let's start. Today, I will be presenting some general ideas about systemic functional grammar, as you see here in the screen, which is a model of grammar developed by Halliday in the 1960s. This is a new approach to grammar. So first of all, we are going to deal with two big concepts that are seen in a very different form from Halliday's point of view. First of all, let's start with the concept of grammar. What is grammar? What do you think grammar is? The first thing that comes to my mind is the word rules and structures, correctness, exercises, syntax, patterns, etc. Okay, that is good, but that is all related to traditional grammar, to formal grammar. However, Halliday has a very different vision about it. Let's see. Grammar is an economy-based system to make multiple meaning. It enables us to make infinite meanings with a finite number of expressions. A form can have different meanings. So, in other words, we can say that grammar, from this point of view, the systemic functional point of view, is a resource for making meaning. We have a limited number of expressions, but with those, we can create infinite meaning, a lot of meaning. For example, if I say, open the door to a stranger, it will sound rude or harsh. It's inappropriate. It won't be the same if I just use the same expression with a friend of mine or a relative. But that is only appropriate because of the particular relationship between us. So, let's move on with another question. What is a text? What do you think a text is? Again, the first thing that comes to my mind is something written. A document, written language, etc. Okay. That is okay, but Halliday considers text to this. Every single piece of language, it doesn't matter if it's written, oral, body language, wherever. They have the same value. They all make meaning. So we can say that a text is any passage, spoken or written, of whatever length that does form an unified whole. Or we can say that it's any organized pattern of meaning. So far we know the new definition of grammar and the new definition of text that we have according to this point of view from Halliday. So you might be asking, what is systemic functional grammar? So let's see. The term systemic refers to the view of language as a network of systems or interrelated sets of options for making meaning. So, in other words, as I wrote here in the presentation, systemics makes reference to the fact that it offers structures, that grammar is a system of choices, or that it's a set of options for making meaning. Whereas the term functional indicates that language is part of almost every aspect of our lives, so that is applicable in real life. All in all, we can say that systemic functional grammar is a model that explains that language is a system which we can use to construe or make meaning for a whole range of different purposes. So, we will use the same pool of language, but in different ways to achieve different purposes. Or we may use words differently to achieve the same purposes in different. in different situations. Okay, let's take a look closer at this model of grammar. So now we are going to deal with three main terms that will help us to understand a bit more about Halliday's approach to grammar. We will talk about meaning here because we use language as a way of making meaning. It means that we use it to get our message across, to be understood. We talk about context because we use language in certain contexts. I will choose my words more carefully if I'm talking to my boss. However, I won't choose the same language when I'm having a conversation with my friends or family. Finally, we talk about choice because we are always picking the words and expressions we want to use according to the context and to the meaning we want to make. In order to think about grammar as a resource of making and exchanging meanings, it is necessary to explore what might be meant by meaning. Well, let's see. We have three different types of meaning: experiential, interpersonal, and textual meaning. When we talk about experiential meaning, we are making reference to the reality. Not only is reality what surrounds us, but also what is inside us, our feelings and thoughts, the ways language represents our experience. What's more, Halliday mentions a second type of meaning, that is the interpersonal meaning. The ways we act upon one another through language. That is to say, the way we use language to interact with others, giving, requesting information, asking people to do things, offering to do things ourselves, etc. And we have a third type of meaning, that is the textual meaning. The ways in which a stretch of language is organized in relation to its context. So, it has to do with the way I organize a message. So, I'd rather use informal or formal language according to the context in which I am. These three aspects of meaning are not isolated things. They work simultaneously all together in nearly every clause of English. Okay, so far we have been dealing with one of the key terms of this systemic functional grammar, that is meaning, and it's three different types. Now let's move on with one of the other key terms, that is context. We have already talked about context and its importance for us when picking certain language to communicate. Here, Halliday differentiates three different features of context that are feel, tenor, and mode. Let's start with feel. When we talk about feel, we are referring to what the text is about. Remember that a text is not a written piece of language, but any organized pattern of meaning, oral, written, etc. So feel what is going on, what is the text about, experience and reality. Tenor has to do with the social roles and relationships between the participants, speaker, writer, reader, listener. They know each other. Is it the first time they meet? So the relationship between them. And mode has to do with the way a text is constructed, the way a message is built. So, all of these features of context have their counterpart in the metafunction. Halliday refers to his functions of language as metafunctions. So, he proposes three general functions: the ideational, the interpersonal, and the textual. When we talk about field, its counterpart in metafunction is the ideational. That has to do with the experiential meaning too. The ideational metafunction is the function for construing human experience. It is the means by which we make sense of reality, how I encode the reality that I see. Then we have tenor, that has its counterpart, that is the interpersonal metafunction, that has to do with the interpersonal meaning too, that we know that is related to interactivity, to the relationship between speaker and writer, listener and reader, social status, relationships, hierarchy, and so on. And finally, we have mode, that it has its counterpart in metafunction, that is the textual metafunction, as you can see here, that has to do also with the textual meaning, that we know that has to do with the organization of a text or the message we want to send. So finally, we are going to talk about choice. That is the last key term I'm going to develop in this video. So far, we know that language is a system in which we have a finite or a limited number of options that we can combine to make meaning. So we talk about choice because we are always picking, the language. We are always choosing. And we make choices according to the context, according to the relationships that I have with the other person, according to the purpose I want to achieve, and according to the situation. So all in all these different functions and classifications that we have here, that we have identified, work together simultaneously for us to use language and to create and make multiple meaning. So I really hope this explanation will be useful for you. Thank you very much for your attention.